Hey, welcome back to YNR Update. It's Paul here. I want to jump right into what I started yesterday. What I started was sort of a recap of the casting on YNR over the last little while. Some of the characters do take you back a few years, and some of the characters, most of the characters actually, are recent. Next, I want to jump into the character of Patty Williams. Now, Patty Williams, as many of you remember, is the sister of the character Paul Williams, and she was played by Stacey Haydock. That was the last Patty Williams. Now, Patty goes way back, over 30 years, but the character I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, reappeared and was played brilliantly by Stacey Haydock. I don't know if any of the viewers have seen the previous people who played Patty, but in my mind, and having seen them all, Stacey Haydock is the best. Actually, the reason that I brought her up is because I think that Stacey Haydock should be back on the YNR. I always thought it was a pity that her character was so fragile. It was one of the best parts about her, but it was also the worst because you also figured she was on borrowed time. And I always hated that someday, probably in the near future, that I always knew the character would be gone, and surely enough, she was gone. She was brought back also when she played a dual role of a psychiatrist that Patty had her face changed to look like, and I thought even in the character of the psychiatrist she could come back. She was a love interest for Jack, as Patty was his wife a long time ago, and it made for a great storyline. I thought that Stacey Haydock played both characters brilliantly. I thought they could expand the psychiatrist role and have her back on the show. So if any of you feel the same way, by all means, I will post a link or an email that you can send to me, or you can post it right on the YouTube site. Actually, let's do that. Just post it right on the YouTube site and tell me your thoughts about bringing Stacey Haydock back, because I thought she was a great character. Next, I'm going to jump into a huge character. The character of Phyllis Summers Newman, Phyllis Summers Abbott, Michelle Stafford. I don't know, what can I say? Michelle Stafford was the best, and several people have played Phyllis, as many of you know, but of all, I think it's hands down that Michelle Stafford was the best character, or the best actress to ever play Phyllis Summers. She's being played now quite adequately by Gina Tognoni, and the reason I say adequately is not to take anything away from Gina, but she's just getting into the role, and the role hasn't really been defined since bringing her back from a coma. Now, it's tough for Gina, with a character sort of being on ice for a year without being on air, and then coming in, stepping into that role to play that character, and I thought she's done a really good job in that aspect. Like I said, the only detractor is that the storyline has, it's ramping up now, but we don't really know who she is, and with the whole bit about her having come out of the coma and they don't know if her mind is the same, I think the writers are holding back, and we don't know what's going on, and once the mystery has been solved, we'll sort of figure out how Gina tackles it. You can tell just by looking at her performance that she is an absolutely strong actress, and I think she will do wonders for the role. But we'll always have a soft spot in our heart for Michelle Stafford, and in some way I always see her as Phyllis. I always will. I mean, she had the role for a long time, but she pulled it off so brilliantly, and it was definitely Emmy worthy. And next I'm going to jump into another. This one is kind of like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. This one is Adam Newman, and it's a touchy subject for many of the viewers who followed that character played by Michael Muhney and loved his performance. He was absolutely a standout, and almost did for Adam Newman what Michelle Stafford did for Phyllis Summers. He was as rotten as they came, and he had a vulnerability. There were times where you wanted to root for him, because he was sort of all Victor Newman's kids, he is the one that had no problem going head to head. He had a lot of axes to grind with Victor, and he had no problem taking him on. At the same time, he always felt that he wanted his father's love, so he played that character so strongly. Now, what happened to him, or what he did to himself, let's put it that way, I won't mince words on that, is a travesty. To have the honor to play a character like that and to bring so much to that character and make it award worthy as well, and then throw it all away because of ego and just a lack of boundaries, I thought really was a shot. I thought it hurt the show, and I thought it hurt the fans. I know a lot of fans rallied to have him come back, but I understand why things ended up the way it did. But moving on to that, we'll cover Justin Hartley. And I mean, Justin Hartley, he's got his work cut out for him, but he's starting out on a really good note. You can see that he's starting to ramp up, especially in his dealings with Sage, that sort of anger that the character of Adam Newman is known for, that, and also being duplicitous and scheming. I mean, you can really see the seeds beginning. He is a veteran. He spent time on Passions, and he's got a lot of acting experience. I've met him as well as Michelle Stafford. Both of them strong in character when you meet them in person. Very dynamic people. I can tell that he's going to bring a lot to the role, and I think in due time people will come to see him as the rightful Adam Newman. He'll never take away from the performance that Michael Muhney did, but Justin Hartley, I think, will be on his way, and I think he'll win over a lot of people. Next, I want to cover the character of Victoria Abbott, Amelia Hanel. Now, I've heard that she's going to be departing the show. I've also heard that she's going to be taking a break from the show. The reason I want to cover this is because she is one of the strongest characters I've seen on this show. She really has a vulnerability. She also has a strength. She, obviously with the help of the writers and her acting, she really has both sides of her parents. It's weird to put it that way, but you can see there are times where she's strong and she almost has a bit of Victor in her, and there's a lot of times you can see that she has the compassion of Nikki and a huge heart, and will lead with her heart and let the consequences fall where they may be. And that leads me to her ex-husband, Billy Abbott. Okay, and this is another big one. These are big characters. Billy Abbott was a character that was played by many people until he got to an adult and they cast Billy Miller. Now, a lot of people love the Billy Miller character. I am one of them. I thought that guy was, Billy Miller was, he's your hero. He is the guy you want. He is the guy that is lovable, but he is that lovable rascal. He's a guy that, just when you think he's got things going for him, he always finds a way to shoot himself in the foot. And then you spend the rest of the time trying to will him out of trouble to save himself, because he always catches himself before it's too late. He is the ultimate underdog, the ultimate black sheep that you just want to love. And Billy Miller just brought so much to that character. Having to watch him go was awful for YNR fans. You could tell the internet lit up. As with the previous three characters that I mentioned, their departure, same thing, lit up the internet. And now, the other thing I want to cover on this is when he left, YNR brought David Tom in, and I feel bad for David Tom because it's the worst thing they could have done. David Tom is a capable actor. I mean, he was great as a teenage Billy, but unfortunately for him, in this instant, he hasn't aged one bit. I mean, it's great for him. Same thing, he looks great, but he looks like a teenager. And that character, Billy, he had no chemistry with the character of Victoria. You could see it. It was painful, and it was floundering, and YNR pulled the trigger and got him out of there, and then they brought in Burgess Jenkins. Now, Burgess Jenkins is yet to sort of show what he can do, so I don't want to pass judgment on him, but the one thing I can say is that his character has not been given that rascal quality that Billy had. He looks very straight. He's capable, but it's just a straight shooter kind of guy, and you don't see Billy in there. So as a result, you almost don't want to root for him to get back with Victoria. If Billy Miller were in that role, it would be so juicy because you would be rooting for him to win her back, and you could see it happen. But Burgess just doesn't have that, or hasn't been written that swagger that Billy Miller had. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Then I'm going to jump to Now I want to jump to Stitch Rayburn, who is played by Sean Kerrigan. Now the character of Stitch, I mean, you can tell this guy is solid. He's a good actor. He knows what he's doing. But in the same regard as Katie McLean, who I talked about previously, his role has flopped around so much since he's come in. You don't know if he is the troubled war veteran. You don't know if he's a capable doctor. You don't know if he's a murderer. You don't know how many secrets he's got. Like, all these things were introduced. And when you flop a character around so much, it's hard for them to have an identity. And as a result, it's hard to root for them. And until they actually give Sean Kerrigan, who plays Stitch Rayburn, some sort of an identity that we can really hang on to, it's really hard to root for him. But you can tell he knows what he's doing. You can tell he's solid. And last but not least, I want to cover Steve Burton. Steve Burton has stepped in and playing the role of Dylan McAvoy. I mean, he was huge on General Hospital for so many reasons, but because he really was an action guy. He's that good-looking action guy. You could put him in any storyline. And they started with an interesting storyline, with the whole cult leader, father, is he or not? And now that he's, Paul Williams' son and Nikki's son, they really have to give him a really edgy storyline. This is a guy that's a rough and tumble guy. He's very strong, you can tell. I mean, he oozes that, but he really needs a good storyline. And every time we take him too far into that, that trouble war vet type of thing, it really sort of plays with the unpredictability of the character. And I see him more as a real solid character, and I think they should develop that and grow past what they've been doing with him, because you really don't know where he's pointing. So that wraps it up for my look at some of the casting that's happened. And believe me, there's a lot more casting we can talk about, so you'll see a lot more of that from me. And the next time, I think I want to talk about some of the storylines that are going on right now and what I think of them, and ask you for your input. But I love doing this, and I thank you so much. I'm watching the viewership skyrocket from what we started at the beginning of the week, and it's unbelievable. I am so grateful. I thank you for watching. I urge you to share with your friends and sort of let people know I'm going to do this as honestly as I can. This is the most comfortable thing that I've done, and I feel comfortable talking to you, and I want you to talk back to me. So please stay tuned for YNR Update. It's Paul. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.